can we speak in a way, the client hears what they need to hear? How can we speak in a way the client hears what they need to hear? If there's a way to speak to your clients, staff, in a way that they need to hear, would you be interested in learning? Of course you would. Now, before we begin tonight's seminar, the Language of Hypnosis, the second part of the seminar series, and we've covered a number of other seminars around the area of hypnosis. We haven't watched them before. I was just at some point you'd watch them. Alternatively, you'll get a lot of this seminar without watching them. So it's your call. Now, a few years ago, I was asked by the BBC Radio, to do a show. And the show was with a woman. Her name was Margaret, and she was in her 60s. She'd not long retired. And she was looking to reduce weight. She'd not long retired in her 60s, looking to reduce weight. I'm thinking, well, what's the big deal? How difficult could it be to work with someone to help reduce weight? Now, she hadn't long retired, and she'd been to a number of people to help with her weight issue. She'd been to several trainers, gyms. She'd tried therapy, coaching, and so on and so forth. By the time she worked with me, obviously she had an open mind. Yet all that said and done, she had nothing to lose. The radio sort of paired us up, and we embarked on the journey. Now, there was resistance. There was resistance there because she didn't really know a great deal about hypnosis, NLP, CBT, or any other methods I use, and she didn't know a great deal about me. So her experience in that situation of working with people to achieve the goal to reduce weight hasn't gone the way she wanted it to go. Now, if memory serves me correct, and I stand correct on this one, I'm pretty sure in the last show, and you can Google the show and find it, she said that even the GP, and I'm going with what she said, and memory had said that she had something thyroid, or some sort of thyroid, and it would be very difficult to lose or reduce any weight based on those circumstances. So, all things said and done, you can imagine in her mind, imagine being in that situation yourself, the level of apprehension you're going to have. Well, somebody else comes along, this guy, they frame me as the guru and the go-to man and so on and so forth, and everything else that goes with that. So in her mind, there's going to be resistance there, isn't there? Now, all that's said and done, at the same time, I still do now, work with some of those high-profile sports people out there, world champions and footballers and football teams. I walk into the football club, or I walk into a session with a sports person or in corporate sector, they know me, they bring me in, the belief is there. The resistance isn't the same. The anticipation, the belief. And I don't have to be as indirect as I would be in the situation, for example, with Margaret, because I can be more direct. And those who work with me in sport, the highest level, and in corporate sector, you know, I can be direct. Yet in certain situations that lends favourably, I'll go indirect. An indirect approach. So when do you go indirect and when do you go direct? Now, one thing I learned from Dr. Jeffrey Zai is that it's in proportion to the resistance that you have. Now, they're my words, that's my way or my understanding of my learnings with Dr. Jeffrey. And in my mind, it means that if you're a Margaret and you've been a number of therapists and coaches and whatever you've done to reduce weight, and you go along and you're going to go on air to have any people listening, your plight and a weekly show, there's going to be a level of resistance there. So it probably calls for more indirect. If you're a top class athlete, high powered business person, you've brought me in before, you know what I'm all about, you know about NLP, hypnosis, so on and so forth, you can be a bit more direct. So the proportion, so for example, you're a coach or therapist and 30 people come to see you for anxiety of the same family, and they're all raving, yeah, this guy's brilliant, then you can modify and be more direct. If someone comes to see you and says, I've been to 30 therapists, oh, they're all rubbish, no one can help me, then you're going to be more indirect with something we've covered in previous seminars and something we're going to cover today. And there's a reason for doing that, because in the case of Margaret, she knows the answers. We know the answers for whey. Pretty straightforward. Eat more nutritious food, less calorie to a point, more nutritious, more exercise, and we're going to reduce. We know the answers. We've been direct with ourselves all the time. You do it. I do it. We're direct to ourselves. So people have got fear. They've got phobia. They know, and they've heard all before, flying is the safest flying is safe. You don't fly in the air. Logically, yeah. Yet in saying that, we don't process things logically at an unconscious level, do we? Now, it might be anxiety to an interview. It might be, we know smoking is bad for us, we eat certain types of foods, and so on and so forth. So we shoulda, woulda, coulda, must, would, so on and so forth. So we speak indirect, and I mentioned before, not because it's any more preferable, it's because sometimes speaking directly does not do the job. It's not finding the solution. It's the context, and we speak indirect for one reason or the other, the reasons that we've covered in past seminar, we'll touch on today. Create some confusion in the person's mind. Now you're thinking, okay, we can peel away a resistance. Now you're thinking, why? Jim, do you want to create confusion? The client's already confused as it is. Well, the client is already confused as it is. Of course. There's resistance getting away in the solution. So in Margaret's case, getting back in shape again and plenty of life left in her. She's an amazing woman and a lot to live for and so on and so forth. The resistance is there. The barrier is there, like it is for a lot of people, for one reason or the other. So for example, you might want to go on a date with somebody and you're at work and you're attracted to that person, and just as you sort of get up and ask them out, you kind of, well actually, and it's not because you don't want to go on a date, you want to go on a date, yet it might be the impending rejection, and so on and so forth. So that's something to sort of take into consideration. Now, all things said and done, have you ever watched a film? Of course you watch film. Have you watched the Titanic? If you haven't watched the Titanic, to be honest, it's one of the highest grossing films. So you know what's going to happen, don't you? You know what's going to happen in the Titanic, don't you? Ship, iceberg, sink. So why do you watch it? Why do you watch the Titanic? Because it invokes emotions in you. The story, it's about this poor dude who he wins a prize and gets on a ship, and it's about hope, a love story, betrayal and breakup, and a woman reflecting on her life, and it's a story upon a story upon a story, and you watch it just like when you listen to a song, and you know when you hear a song, I think your favourite song or your favourite songs, it invokes an emotion, invokes a state within you. It creates a state within you. It changes, and you kind of drift, you give it meaning, and you go on a wonderful journey. Now, we want to find a solution for the person that we're working with. We want to connect them to a resourceful state. We want to increase the chances the client has to connect to a resourceful state. We want to find ways of doing that. We've touched on ways to do that throughout the seminars we've covered so far. Tonight we'll touch on a couple more, and as we go along, we can practice. Now, like all things taken in consideration, like all things, the mind being the way it is and it processes consciously, just like when you first learn to drive, you've got to think first gear, second gear, stall. Now you drive automatically, you get in the car and you can go where you've got to go, and I bet if you go to the destination you've been several times, just on autopilot. You go to a new place, you've got to think again. A little bit more, still get there. So what I'm saying is, like, take all things in consideration. A lot to cover this evening in a very short time, and you can watch it over again, you can email me for some resources and any questions you've got. Of course, what I would say, at some point in your life you learn to speak. And think about the first time you learned to speak. God only knows what age you were when you first learned to speak. You go all back in time, you've learned to speak unconsciously. You watch, you make associations, you learn behaviour. So you might see your mum jump in the air, she's a spider, and you learn that behaviour. You might see your mum stroke a cat, and you start stroking the cat as well. So we learn behaviours, and you've learned to do many things in life, like tie your shoelace and walk, and you didn't walk straight away. You fell, you got up, you went again. Bike, you ride, and you swim, and you drive, and course is a job you do, all these things. At one point you didn't know anything, and same as this, sometimes people say to me, Jim, you make it look really effortlessly. Well, I've been doing this for a million years, at least it feels like a million years, so practice, it's key. And you don't need to be subconsciously competent to use some of this stuff. You can use it as an extension of what you do, and I certainly wouldn't recommend, and I'm not treating anybody for any conditions or case formulation, and I wouldn't recommend anyone work outside their remit. So if you're a teacher, you're there to help the people, or the students anyway, to engage your retention and attainment and grades. You're not there to treat little Johnny for depression. If he's got that, then refer him to the appropriate professional. Your personal trainer. I read an article on a big magazine years ago about the personal trainer. You stick to your remit, which is a fine line between fitness training and you're not the therapist. Someone says they've got some sort of condition, whatever it might be, like depression, you would make that recommendation to go see the appropriate professional. But what you can help them with and come in handy is for their fitness goals. And you stick to your remit. If you're a therapist, then fair enough. And if you're hitting a therapist, you've probably done this sort of stuff before, it's reinforced learning, and you hear it from my perspective. So we're going to have a look, and the first thing I'm going to cover this evening is, I learned this of Dr. Jeffrey Zeig, and it's balancing of two opposites. Balancing of two opposites. I learned this from Dr. Jimmy Petruzzi, and it's really, really powerful stuff, really, really useful one I've used myself in various situations. So let me give you an example. Now and later, and you can extend that to tense and relaxed, which is another pair. So we're looking at ways to generate confusion in an indirect way, and let's start to play a bit. So perhaps you can be tense now and relax later. Or later, if you're tense, you can relax. And now is the time to let go of any tension and start to feel relaxed. Because later, when you're relaxed, any tension you felt later will be a time to recognize being relaxed can feel so wonderful. So let's have a go at that again, and you can play around with it and do your own things and work on it and so on and so forth. So the goal is, and as a therapist coach, you've got a goal with your clients. The goal might be to reduce anxiety, to feel calmer, invoke a state. The goal could be anything really in that sense, and you've got an agreed goal, what they want as a well-formed outcome we touched on in previous seminars before. Get all that said and done, there's a reason for doing this. I'm doing this now. The goal is to put you in a more relaxed state of mind, a more receptive learning state of mind. So whilst you're doing that, you can follow it. So you can close your eyes if you want to. Perhaps you'd like to close your eyes. It's entirely up to you if you want to follow what I do and say. Ultimately, in the end, you might want to write it down and start getting your head around some of this stuff and practicing yourself. Your call what you do, or you can do one or the other, whatever. You can write it down and follow it later and follow what I say, or ultimately in the end you can follow it down, maybe write it later. Your call. Let's take now and later and extend that to tense and relaxed. Perhaps you can be tense now and relaxed later. Or later, if you're tense, you can relax. And now is the time to let go of any tension and start to feel relaxed. Because later, when you're relaxed, any tension you would have felt later will be a time to recognize being relaxed can feel so wonderful. Okay? Fantastic. And you can play around with it. You can do the recording and have a listen to it, write it down and do your own ones, and so on and so forth. So it's bouncing off two opposites. We communicate in a way that can keep someone's attention. Okay? Well, we don't fire off in any direction. We give people the opportunity to get respite from a problem. So they come to see you, they could be ruminating and fixated like that, and we give them the opportunity, a vacation from their problem, work towards a solution. They can switch off like a light switch from a problem and release, almost like a vacation, so to speak, for that period. We can look for a solution. We can find a solution and peel away at that resistance and generate alternatives and options in the hope that of all those options, there may be one that's going to resonate like a seed. Sprouts and grows and develops, and they water and they nurture and so on and so forth. So, and certainly in the case of Margaret, I mentioned earlier, yeah, of course, we could generate options, alternatives and so on, and create an experience and so on and so forth. There was method in the madness. Of course there is. It increases the chances of the client to get to a resourceful state. We found ways to do that, and eventually she would run for the first time in 20 years. She had 3 knees, so she said. She would get into shape, the shape she wanted to be, reduce the weight she wanted, and as a result of that, she would change her life dramatically. As well as that, she had a phobia 56 years. 56 years, since 8 years of age, she had phobia, and she overcome that in a very short time. She went back swimming again. Her phobia was swimming. She went back swimming again. And that might not be a great deal for anybody, but for her it was a big deal because it meant that she could improve her social life again. She was withdrawn, and she could get back out there again. And she booked a holiday to Spain for the first time in many years, and all these changes dramatically within the space of a few months, and it shows that we can do and work with people. And it's not going to be a recommendation for everybody. I'm not saying I'm going to speak this way for everybody. I'm not saying, and it shouldn't be appropriate for the person we're working with. So the story you tell someone is going to resonate with them. So you're not plucking the story out of the sky as an outcome of using the story. Yeah, what I would say is a counterintuitive process, because you've normally been told throughout your academic life and taught in a logical way. You're very direct. Get to the point. Come on, get to the point. Get to the point. So if the person could solve the issue, do you not think they would have done it already anyway? So we are using a method, a different method, and just enough for the person to make sense of it and fill in the dots, so to speak. So you might hear a song and your interpretation is one thing and one somebody else. Watch a film, you see it one way, someone sees it a different way. Another method we could use is distraction. Have you ever been in a situation where you're conversing to a loved one or a friend or anyone for that matter, and you're deep in thought, and then whilst you're deep in thought, ring, 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 phone goes, pick up phone, blah, 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 phone down, back to conversation. I can't remember what I was thinking of before. Happened before, or the bell rings, the door. You can interrupt someone's pattern or their flow by using distraction. And how, you might ask, would you distract someone? Some of the methods we've covered already. It's on the other seminars. We can misspeak a word, misspeaking. So you could say something that the person, did they say that? And they've got to process that. And whilst they're processing that, it's a gateway into the unconscious mind, and you can do that with a story, a metaphor, just like when someone watches a film and something happens beyond what their expectation is, and we can create that confusion, story, metaphor, and distraction, and we soften that resistance, rigidity, and we can then interrupt. The person's expecting to say one thing and you say the other. What colour are your socks? Well, what do they say that for? They're ruminating, stewing. The person comes into and they're really ruminating, stewing over it, and then they're offloading and, well, let me tell you what happened and what colour. So you can do, and you can interrupt that pattern, and boom, and that's quite a useful way. And we talked a little bit about that in the previous seminar. We'll talk about more as we go along, but creating that distraction, that confusion is quite useful because we can peel away, just like peeling away an orange, a resistance, and we can offer alternatives. We can create an experience full of options, look for solutions, move towards a positive outcome where the person wants to go, where they want to go. Change your perspective, change your world. So I saw it one way, now I see it differently. Our structure of reality, our beliefs, we can do that. It's quite a powerful way to do that, to give someone as many options as you possibly can and speak in a way that they can move towards, we mentioned in the earlier seminar, a positive outcome. Move towards that. Another way you can do and communicate with people is through sounds. Sounds is ignorant. Imagine we're having the conversation we're having now hundreds of thousands of years ago, when we didn't have language the way we know it now. We didn't communicate, we did now. And think of communication. We communicate through our sensory channels. See, hear, feel, smell, taste. See, hear, feel being the big ones. And think about it, all those years ago. Let's think about this conversation, hundreds of thousands of years ago, having this conversation. And let's say, for example, conversation, I ask, or you ask your partner to make you a coffee. Can you make me a coffee, please? And can you make me a coffee, for example? And you ask the partner for a coffee, and you wouldn't have that capacity. Language as we know it today. And you would use sounds. It'd be, and they might be like, go make it yourself. So we're using sounds, gestures as well. It's quite useful. Now we want to say them again. It's in proportion to the person we're working with. Yet in saying that, it's quite useful. And it's a bit like when you watch a comedian. Some of your comedians, one of my comedians, favourite comedian, the late George Carlin, didn't say something really serious, and his gesture, the way he said it, and his tone, would make people laugh, and you would laugh, you'd engage. And I'm sure you comedians that you enjoy, the Mr. Bean with his funny antics, and Benny Hill, if you're old enough to remember Benny Hill. Yes, I remember Benny Hill. I'm that old. And that's the sort of thing to think about. It's quite useful, speaking in sounds and gestures, and you can work on doing that. It's practice. That's the key to any of it. It's just practicing it, and all this stuff. All it is just practicing it. And developing your skill set and having one skill set. No one's saying if you're very direct in your approach, if nothing's broken, don't fix it. You don't need to fix it. Yeah, it's another skill set. And I mentioned earlier that in my own career, depending on where I'm working in what situation is, I'll just adjust accordingly as you do. And also from the point of view of gestures, you're looking at people and the acuity, how they respond. So you're reading their body language like we do automatically anyway. If you go to a restaurant with your friends or family, if they like the food, you know they like it. If they don't like the food, they don't have to say much. You know, that sort of stuff. That happens anyway. And we know that. And equally, if someone's about to fall asleep, you can see that. So you're using acuity, your sense of acuity as well. We've talked about in previous seminars and go into more detail as we go along. And that's the useful thing. And in terms of generating ideas, it's pretty powerful stuff. And think about it this way. At one point in one person's life, an idea might be sweets. It might be they eat sweets, sugary foods high in sugar, and they associate that with feeling better. And we know that it has a physiological impact. So you have sugar, the sugar rush, foods high in sugar, they create a spike, and we might feel better. So we equate that food with feeling better. You're going to spiral, and we can't break the spiral because we have an idea. Eat this food. Feel good, and that's a habit. That every time we feel stressed or low, we eat a certain type of food. And this could be subconsciously. I had a client once who, when I regressed her back to her earlier years, because every time she'd come home after work, she'd have chocolate, and her association with chocolate was love, because every time she'd get upset when she was young, or younger, a child, a baby, 4 or 5, or young child, her mum would give her chocolate. And as she got older, she was going through some problems in her relationship, and that broke down. She was going on her own, she was feeling lonely, and she'd compensate for that feeling by having, so there's an association there and a habit. So at some point you can find other ideas. So you might find the idea of sugary food as creating a spike, and eat more sustainable energy food. Food that's got more sustainable energy, where you eat the food and it sustains your energy, and then you break that habit. And because we know that we eat too much sugary food, it turns to glycogen, and glycogen not burnt turns to fat. So ultimately then you might reverse that. So the idea could have been smoking, and smoking's cool. So you might have seen, your parents or your uncle or your auntie or someone in the vicinity smoking away, and you think, well, actually, you know what, that looks pretty cool, and you start doing it too. It becomes a habit. Equally, you might eventually decide that you see someone who has emphysema and smoking's contributed towards their not being so great, not being so well, or whatever, and you might think, I'm not doing that no more. You might have a newborn baby and think, I want to give myself the best chance to be able to play with my children, sports, and go running, and that might be another way of looking at things. And then you look at smoking and think, disgusting. And you snap and break that habit. You interrupt that, and you start to. So we can create these ideas. We can generate these ideas and create as many options as we possibly can within an experience, so to speak. And that can help people, if nothing else. Mentioned earlier, some respite from problem in that situation, a vacation, and whilst they're in that vacation, they start looking for a solution. And they might not find a solution straight away. It might not happen that way. It might be when they get up in the morning and read a paper or go to bed at night. And it might be that they have an epiphany, or driving in the car. It might come then. And equally, like you're learning this, you might not know what you want to say until you say it. So consciously, you can process so much. Subconsciously, we process a lot more. And the unconscious mind, think about how powerful it is. You breathe hundreds of thousands of times a day, your heart beats. You don't tell it to do, to be. You cut yourself, and the wound heals on its own. Your head, all these things happen automatically at an unconscious level, outside your awareness, pretty much so the behaviours and emotion. And if we can tap into that resource, a really powerful resource, think about it. You're a miracle in your own right. You grew as a baby, and a baby grows. And inside the womb, and the baby grows, and birth is a miracle in itself, isn't it? And we are a miracle in our own way in terms of how we made our journey to the world. So who knows what the possibilities are of the unconscious mind? Who knows what they are? And if we can access that in whichever way we can, who knows what's possible? And from my experience of working with some of those high achievers and people of all walks of life, I work across a broad range of areas, and I've seen things that could never imagine. That's not to say that everything's going to go the same way for everybody, and that's not to say everyone sees success in the same way. How many Margarets of this world are there, like I mentioned earlier, who all but pretty much gave up on the idea that she could get in the shape she wanted to? And that was last chance salute. And certainly in my profession, and know that you do what I do, coaches and therapists out there, you'll see sometimes people go to the last chance salute, and a lot of people don't even bother in the end. And it's amazing what can be done in a short time. Now, I'm not saying this has all the answers to all the world's issues. It's just a different approach. If it's not broken, you're very dark, then don't fix it. Yet what I would say, I've committed myself to lifelong learning, and every day I probably study 3-4 hours, sometimes even more a day, learning, and I have done for the last 20 years or so. We're always learning, and that's a powerful way, whether we do an hour or half an hour or 1 hour, whatever we can spare, we grow and develop and become the very best we can be in terms of what we can do. So that's all we've got time for this evening. I'm sure you've really enjoyed it. Email me, Jimmy Petruzzi, and it's info@excelnlp.com. That's info@excelnlp.com. info@excelwithnlp.com. If you want any comments, feedback, or anything like that, then do get in touch. Do leave me comments. We can do more videos on this journey. I'm sure you enjoyed it. Have an awesome week and live with passion. Boom! High five.